A witcher, a man with no past because it's forgotten, a man with no parents for they will never come, a man with no kin for they have disowned him. His home is no longer his childhood toys now belong to someone else, and only death awaits him on the road ahead. A witcher's school is the entire life of a witcher until his foot steps onto the broad highway. Cold castle walls replace the comfort of home. Severe and stern mentors stand in for loving parents, and a bunch of shut-in, merciless mutant children become his new siblings. Once upon a time there was a single witcher school, a grand one, perhaps shared by hundreds or even thousands of witchers, with one unique witcher medallion for them all, a medallion marking them, distinguishing witchers from the rest of humanity. But this great house shattered. It broke into several schools. The witches who truly wished to protect people from monsters could not get along with those whose sole motive was coin, nor with those who despised humanity's nature altogether. Multiple schools arose. Each received its own distinct witcher emblem, an animal's head, wolf, bear, viper, griffin, or maybe lynx. Everything depends on their emblem. Who's coming to rid the settlement of a leshen, a friend or a sly foe? Should you welcome him or hide the children? Common folk knew next to nothing about these schools, how they formed, which mutants they house. There was only gossip, and they should have known, for it might have spared them. In this video we will discuss all witcher schools, their beginnings, founders, and unique ways, so you don't end up like some ignorant peasant who knew nothing. Welcome, this is the old witcher representing the school of the beard speaking. We thank our patrons for their support and invite the other viewers to join these awesome people. A like and a comment would be appreciated, but let us cut to the chase now. The School of the Bear. Let us start by mentioning that game canon changed somewhat after the release of The Witcher 3. CD Projekt Red introduced a great deal of extra material, much that deserves structuring and explanation. So starting chronologically with the first to split from the large unified Witcher organization, the School of the Bear. Its leader was a giant, presumably the most physically powerful Witcher in history, named Arnegad. Rumor says he was so mighty he could cleave a man in half with one blow, and even smash through a Witcher's quench shield. He disliked the rules of the Witchers. He believed Witchers should extort their pay more forcefully from commoners when the latter refused to pay willingly, and that Witchers should act even more harshly. He soon found kindred spirits and initially attempted to seize the entire big school. But among those in Morgrave, some opposed Arnegad, witches who refused to obey his claims. Arnegad's coalition was smaller but refused compromise. A fight broke out, a fight to the death between Witcher brothers. Arnegad's followers battled fiercely but lost. To avoid execution, they had to flee the battlefield and desert the castle altogether. Yet they still desired to found their own witcher school, and they succeeded. They settled in Cadoc, a fortress perched on the snowy slopes of the Yamel Mountains, the new home of the School of the Bear. Unsurprisingly, its leader was Arnegad. The Bear School's charter held that witchers had the right to forcibly extract their reward if the client declined to pay voluntarily. They raised each witcher as an individualist, every man for himself, with no sense of collective unity. Additionally, if two witchers had competing claims to a monster contract, it was for the stronger one to take it. Thus, the School of the Bear witches always roamed alone, and even meetings among them from the same school often concluded in bloodshed. Their home lay in a severe climate. In wintertime, Cadoc's courtyard piled with snow so deep that the young trainees might spend entire days clearing it, only to have to do so again a couple days later. Hence, bear witches grew physically strong, favoring heavy armor stuffed with hides and furs, relying not on speed but on raw power. The School of the Bear mostly operated around the Yamel Mountains and notably the Skellige Isles, simply because the locals there found the School of the Bear's ways more comprehensible. Ultimately, the School of the Bear's code caused its downfall. Since each witcher acted alone when witchers came under persecution, no one united to defend the fortress. So the Bear School collapsed with little resistance. Over time, many legendary witchers emerged from the School of the Bear. We recall, for example, Gerd, famed for fighting alongside Jarl Thorgeir the Red, Ivo of Belhaven, the monster slayer of Gernikora, and others who walked the unique path of the Witch's School of the Bear. The School of the Viper. Next on our list is the School of the Viper, often referred to as the School of the Snake or the Serpent. It formed soon after the School of the Bear, a splinter of it essentially. Everything began with the witcher Ivar Evil Eye. Ivar was quite an unusual monster hunter. He belonged to a batch of child witchers who underwent the harshest experiments. Of them all, Ivar alone survived. Yet even for him, the immense number of toxins introduced into his body left scars. Ivar adapted surprisingly well to early-stage mutations, tolerating weak to medium mutant genes effortlessly, much to the sorcerer's excitement. They pressed forward with more experiments, so many they nearly killed him. Those manipulations brought about a special mutation. Ivar's left eye turned completely red, like a serpent's one. With it, he could see not only the continent, but also the other worlds beyond time and space. He beheld the wild hunt and recognized the threat it posed, but none would heed him. Almost no one believed in some quote-unquote hunt that might ruin the world. Thus, Ivar rallied those who did believe. Initially, he joined Arneged's bid to seize Morgrave, and when Arneged failed, Ivar would not remain under his command. Along with his followers, he left the Bear School. Before leaving, he tried to poison Arneged, hoping more of Arneged's students would follow the Evil Eye's vision. The big man survived, forcing Ivar to flee, as far as Tertakair. There, among the crags, he discovered the abandoned fortress Gortogwade, where he and his allies founded their Witcher Academy, the School of the Viper. The Viper Witchers obeyed special tenets. Their true priority was confronting the wild hunt, detecting it and devising ways to counter it. All else was left to personal choice. If they wished so, they took monster contracts like regular Witchers, or they could do contract killings of people. They accepted any job to support themselves in their ultimate mission, the ultimate enemy. Their leader was of course Ivar Evil Eye. Life in the School of the Viper meant enduring experimental mutations. So many tests were done that the gorge below the fortress got filled with a lake of toxic mutagens. They trained mainly with dual short blades, unlike the typical 1.5-handed swords other witches use. They also placed great emphasis on poisons. The Viper alchemists prepared numerous venoms. Those mixtures serviced the needs of witchers who often undertook stealth assassinations for hire, so the witchers learned covert methods, poison usage, and more. Among the school's legendary figures are the infamous assassin of kings named Letho of Gulet, and Varric the All-Seeing, who after going blind concocted a powerful elixir to restore healthy eyes, and others who paved their own singular path as the School of the Viper Witchers. The School of the Manticore. Alongside Ivar Evil Eye, far more witchers headed south than those who settled in Gortogwade. Some had no interest in perpetually hunting the wild hunt. They were simply dissatisfied with Arneged and the School of the Bear. Among them was a self-styled witcher named Iwan, or Imad Asim. His story brims with coincidences. Those who followed him first decided to earn some coin rather than found new schools. They traveled through the Tertakair Mountains, taking various monster contracts and living a life of wandering adventurers. Yet Iwan still harbored grander ambitions, waiting for his chance to act. So when Zerikanian merchants sought bodyguards for a caravan crossing the desert, Iwan readily agreed. His companions joined him. The route from the northern kingdoms to Zerikania traversed the Korath Desert, where not only anthropomorphic scorpions and lethal heat lurked, but also spirits, ghosts, and even demons. The witches proved invaluable, even more so after they stumbled upon Zerikania's royal family stranded in the desert, their convoy attacked by Manticores. Realizing these wealthy folk could pay handsomely, the witches rushed to save them and felled the Manticores. But the reward proved richer still. Once Iwan and his witchers escorted the rulers back to their palace, the court sorceress, out of gratitude, offered Iwan 2 fortresses in which to establish a new monster slayer order in Zerikania. Naturally, resurrecting the witchercraft there demanded substantial effort, and Iwan and the sorceress had to work hard. But that is a topic for a separate discussion. Do comment below if you would like an entire video on the Manticore School and the exploits of Iwan aka Imad Asim. If enough people want it, we will do it. It's quite the tale. And so arose the Zerikanian Manticore School. the only witches' school boasting 2 fortresses, Behelt-Nar in the west, Beelz of Alzaria in the east. Iwan grew respected at court and had direct access to the royal family. The school yielded numerous witchers, some of whom journeyed to the northern kingdoms, spreading word about Zerrikania's wonders. Manticore apprentices trained with paired sabers, favoring agility and lightweight armor. They specialized in the Igni sign and were adept with poisons and antidotes, critical for survival in the desert. Their ties to other schools gradually faded, eventually vanishing altogether. They became wholly separate witchers, despite sharing a common origin from Morgrave. The School of the Cat. After the unified school splintered, more divisions were inevitable. Many witchers and the sorcerers who cooperated with them, those responsible for child mutations, were displeased that the mutation process was rigidly set. They demanded fresh experiments to refine the mutagens. One night, they stole the bulk of the mutagens and scientific research accumulated in Morgrave, then fled. They had already chosen their new home in advance. They traveled to Stygia Castle, convinced it would provide safety. There, they began truly horrifying experiments. They were not focused on training child witchers so much as forging stronger and more potent mutagens. They drugged children nearly to death, dissecting some alive to study organ responses, then discarded the bodies in one pit. The nightmare might have gone on indefinitely, but one special boy survived. Left for dead in the pile of corpses after repeated mutations, he awoke unnoticed. His wounds, thanks to the mutagens in his blood, healed swiftly. He escaped, freeing the other young witchers locked in cages as test subjects. Those children, psychologically unstable and extremely hostile from the mutagens, stuck together out of survival instinct. They fled. Soon they ran into the Square-tail. The elves did not kill the children. Instead, they took them in, teaching them hatred for humankind. Once the youngsters grew, they returned to Stygia Castle and slaughtered every sorcerer there, freeing more children in the process. And that special boy, the survivor, became their leader. His name was Gezras of Leda. He established the School of the Cat and led it. That school maintained several small bases yet refused to return to Stygia Castle, calling it cursed. Cat witchers loathed humans but took contracts from them for sustenance, killing monsters like other witchers, albeit with fierce resentment. Their instability and hatred tarnished the entire Witcher Order's reputation. The School of the Cat Witchers often flew into rages, slaughtering entire villages if they felt betrayed. This brutality was a key factor in the Witcher Brotherhood's poor name among the populace. The cats focused on agility and speed, wearing light armor reminiscent of the Square-tail. They also excelled at wielding crossbows. Many charismatic witchers emerged from this school, among them Brehan, infamous for causing a bloody carnage in the city of Yellow, a massacre, and Gaetan, who likewise killed many village folk. His fate was left to decide to the School of the Wolf Witcher, Geralt of Rivia. School of the Griffin. Not much lore remains about how the other schools came about, since they simply went their own ways after the downfall of the unified order at Morgrave. That is how, for instance, the noblest of all witcher schools, the School of the Griffin, came to be. It was founded by a heroic figure named Erland of Larvik. As a child, Erland loved knights. He read books and wanted to emulate a wandering knight who had once come to Morgrave to train him in his spears and swordsmanship. Erland believed in honor and kindness, in aiding others and upholding the witch's code. He was the one who confronted Arnegad when the latter violated all order rules. He was the one Arnegad struck when he shattered the Quen sign with a single blow. Erland tried to keep the remnants of the Witcher Order together as long as possible, but then gave up. With his companions, he departed to the fortress Kaer Seren, where he established his own Witcher school, the School of the Griffin. The code of the school was strict but fair, resembling the code of chivalry Erland was so fond of. Its foundation held that the world must be cleansed of horrific monsters and that people deserved help, even if they couldn't pay. The School of the Griffin primarily operated in the northern regions of the continent, where hostility towards witchers was somewhat less severe. Alas, as with all other Witcher Brotherhoods, the School of the Griffin was eventually destroyed by raging mobs who believed the church's propaganda and nearly eradicated witches from existence. In their training, Griffin witchers placed special emphasis on magic signs, Quen, art, and so forth. They carried a distinct blood lineage more attuned to magical flows used solely against monsters. The School of the Griffin's history is full of witchers who further enhanced its reputation. For example, there was George of Kagan, dubbed the Dragon Slayer, famous for his hunts against fire-breathing wyverns, and Raven, a witcher whose life teems with legendary feats, like curing the Prince of Maribor of lycanthropy. The School of the Wolf. We now come to the final school of the Northern Kingdoms, the last to split from the unified order at Mulgrave, the School of the Wolf. This school was alone among those listed in that it had no singular leader to govern it. Wolves are wolves because they run in packs. When Erland and the Griffins departed, few witchers remained in Mulgrave, those who wanted no dramatic changes. They realized they could not maintain the massive castle, but they also knew they had to stick together to survive. In the Blue Mountains of Gaetan, they found the abandoned fortress Kaer Morhen and settled there. They got it into good shape and carried on, never adopting flamboyant leaders like Arnegat or Erland. Yeah, sure, they did have Grand Masters, but these were equals among equals, merely fulfilling organizational tasks. Wolves preserved the old witcher charter without leaning towards chivalry or mindless butchery. They retained ancient mutation formulas and the old training system, once again without extremes. They became the, so to say, dullest yet also the most professional witchers on the continent they meant to be. They trained in all weapons, from swords to magic signs, studied monsters rather than focusing on one species, and worked with mutagens, yet without fanaticism. Surprisingly, those who were last to leave Mulgrave also outlived the others before finally falling. The massacres came for the Wolf School as well, but later than for other witcher strongholds. From the school emerged many legendary witchers: Vesemir, Berengar, and of course the White Wolf, Geralt of Rivia, a truly notable figure who changed the entire world of the continent. The School of the Lynx. Finally, we have the Witcher School about which almost nothing is known, just its medallion, the School of the Lynx. This is the school teased for the next Witcher game, The Witcher 4. From everything we've discussed, it appears the School of the Lynx could hardly have been formed independently. Its roots lie in the same Mulgrave castle, along with Cosimo Malaspina and Alzur. According to developer comments, this new school might be akin to a university, something greater than a typical Witcher order. Chances are we will deal with events set much later than Geralt of Rivia's timeline, when someone attempts to resurrect the Witcher craft in a more civilized form. And naturally everything goes wrong and we're gonna end up in the thick of it. But one can guess endlessly. We might even propose letting an AI script The Witcher 4. We wonder what it would produce and whether it would come close. For now, all we can do is speculate. That is, speculate and watch more videos on this fascinating Witcher universe on our channel. Thanks to everyone who made it to the end of this video. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed it and if you want more. And we will see you soon when the old Witcher speaks once more.